Hi, just wanted to touch base with you about the assignment that is due tonight. This is um, Monday night, last day of week 4. A couple of students have reached out to me and wanted some more guidance on this, and I notice only 2 of you have actually turned anything in. I wanted to go ahead and extend the deadline for this assignment by another 2 days to Wednesday and take this opportunity to give you some more specific guidance in this video format. Uh, the assignment, you will recall, is based on the McKinsey study, a survey of many business executives who had been through uh, a a business reorganization and collected some very valuable information, reached some conclusions about business reorganizations that I feel are applicable. Certainly, many of them I agree with, that match my own personal experience well, and in some ways not very surprising conclusions, but they also reinforce some of the concepts that we're learning in Cotter and Specter as we go through this course. So I think it's a good reference work for us to look at and to think about if we were reorganizing our company, a company that we're at now, or a company that we fictionally own, or that we were a top executive at. What lessons could we take away from the McKinsey study that would help us do a better job, help us plan to do a better implementation and to lead change better in that kind of a situation? I wanted to make a little, I whipped up a little 3-slide presentation here to give you the basics of what I would like to see in your presentation. Bear in mind, if your resources are limited and you do not have PowerPoint exactly, you can use Google Slides, or in a pinch, you can even use Word. I'm not very concerned about the graphics. I am concerned about the content. So as long as you put it in a slide type format, in other words, page 1 can be slide 1. If you want to put a graphic on there, fine, but I'm more concerned about content. And I'll talk specifically here about what that content should be. So here's my fictional company, McMurray Amalgamated. My fictional company, McMurray Amalgamated, makes amalgam, which is that stuff they put in your tooth when they fill your cavity. They fill it with amalgam. So I have a fictional company here that I use, for example, sometimes McMurray Amalgamated. We're going to lead change. We're responsible for leading change at McMurray Amalgamated, for doing a big reorganization. Maybe things aren't going like they're supposed to go here at McMurray Amalgamated. You can make up a company. You can not reference a company at all. If you just want to make this presentation to your board as the assignment asks you to do, that's great. If you want to use a real company that you work at and reference that, then that would be just as fine. I'm going to um, leave the presentation here not in presentation mode because I want you to be able to see the notes. Um, I'm titling my presentation Lessons Learned from the McKinsey Study. And so obviously my idea is to go into the McKinsey study, pull out precepts that I think are important for leading through change, and then talk about those. My second slide is a content slide, and it only has to do with one point of the assignment. So you yourself would be responsible for finding several points in the McKinsey study that would guide you through that kind of through an implementation. One of the things that you'll notice if you read through the McKinsey study, one of the conclusions they draw is that companies who go into a implementation plan with detailed goals, preferably some sort of metric that they can measure, are going to on the average succeed better than those who don't. And so I've pulled an appropriate quote here from the McKinsey study. The most successful organizations are far likelier to set detailed goals. And then I've put in my little bullet points and a horrible graph. I made this graph myself. I don't know what I was thinking. This is obviously a horrible little graph. It looked better in my mind. Does that ever happen to you? But you don't have to use a graphic. What I wanted to do is illustrate, though, the idea that we're going to measure something. In this case, we're going to measure the the amount of amalgam that a McMurray amalgamator produces. And we're going to do that by way of measuring how this change is effective. Supposedly, our output here is going to be changed in some way by the processes that we're putting in place. And so we want to set up an appropriate measurement. That's not always, by the way, just work more, work harder, produce more. This, in some ways, this might be not a great example. When you're going through organizational changes, sometimes, as we have just discussed in a previous discussion question, forcing a high rate of production can add a little bit too much aggravation, be a little bit too much on top of a lot of structural changes. So it depends on what you're trying to do. But I'm saying here that whether it's the amount of amalgam that you produce or some other less numeric or profit-oriented measurement, maybe customer satisfaction rates, maybe turnaround time, things like this. They're usually, if change is going to be successful, obviously we're going towards some kind of goal. That means we should be able to measure it. And the McKinsey study confirms, and I agree from personal experience, that if you do understand what you're trying to improve and you're able to communicate that more clearly, and that really does help with engagement of the employees because they understand what they're progressing toward. It makes it less like just change for change's sake, which is always dangerous, and more like an improvement that we're all working toward. And this tends to elicit much more engagement from all your employees. I have related this back to Kotter as well. I've said, if this is true about the fact that you need to set detailed goals, then maybe we can also look at that in terms of what Kotter says are bad implementation practices, failing to create short-term wins or declaring victory too soon. I would contend that if you have detailed goals, you have a way to avoid either of these extremes. You can, when we're halfway to the goal, if our July production of amalgam reaches our goal, we have reason to believe that our change processes are working, and we can share that good news in a meaningful way with our employees, and it's a great opportunity to engage in a bit of self-congratulation without going overboard into complacency, because the goal is still out there. We can still see how far we need to go. And so without those detailed goals, I would argue it's easier to slip into either, this eternal change process that never seems to end because we can't tell if we're making progress or not, or the idea that happens even more frequently, which is, gosh, we've been working really hard for the last 2 months to put these changes in place, and we're still here, so we must be done. I can't work any harder, so we must be done, and regardless of the results. And so, you can easily reach a point to where you say, okay, let's put a stake in it. It's done, and it's really not. Now, notice here, the reason I left this not in presentation mode is because I wanted to show you that what I do expect that you would do is that you would write out the way that you would present this. So presentations, we never want them to be too wordy. This is about as cluttered as you would want a presentation slide to be. You want it to be a few pithy points of something that you can say very, very concisely. And then, of course, your speech, your presentation is more than half of it. You're the expert in a presentation, and the idea is you have a lot to say about that little point, and you can answer questions about that little point. So don't vomit onto the slide, as they say. Don't put everything you know on the slide. Put a little point that requires your explanation. That helps hold the interest of your viewers and also put you in a position of being an expert. Also makes it easier to read, especially if you have a beautiful slime green graphic like this at the bottom. I'm still not sure how I did that. So do put your notes in here, and basically what it is you would say in the notes portion of the slide, or if you're not using PowerPoint, just make a box underneath the area where you show me what would be on your slide for your presentation. Now, again, this is one slide. I would expect your presentation, it's no more than 10 slides. I would expect it to be at least 4 or 5 really good slides with plenty of content and plenty of references. And then I do finally have a reference page at the end. I only have one slide. If you had multiple slides, of course, you would do this for every slide that you every slide where you make a reference to other materials. So hopefully this helps you a little bit, and the extra time will help you a little bit if you're having trouble with this assignment. I just want you to use the link in the assignment to go to the McKinsey study, and then I want you to take the precepts from the McKinsey study. I've identified one of them, and there are several others, and many others, where they talk about the difference between good implementations and bad implementations. Sorry, I got interrupted there, but I think I had just about finished anyway. So if you have any questions, as always, please contact me. Those of you who already have contacted me and I didn't respond via email, this is my apology. I wanted to give you greater guidance than I felt like I could in a text format. So if you have any other questions for me, please let me know. Otherwise, I will be talking to you soon.